Welcome back to the episode of Unranked Podcast. What we're going to do today with the football season right around the corner, our Michigan Wolverines, they kick off on the 31st against Fresno State, and our Detroit Lions kick off on the 8th against Stafford and the Rams. But we're going to do for the next couple of weeks, starting with this week, we're going to dive in to talking about our Michigan Wolverines since they're kicking off first. So we'll go ahead and share my screen here. And we're gonna go through the line, go right down the line, just kind of discuss the matchups week by week, and kind of come away with a score prediction overall. So, um, yeah, we'll go ahead and dive in. Starting with Fresno State, and I'll kind of let you start from there. We'll just kind of dive on in.
Yeah, yes, sir. Um, I mean, the season's right here. You right before we hopped on, you just reminded me that we have some games this weekend, so it's an exciting time. Defending national champ Michigan Wolverines are coming back, starting August 31st, and obviously you never want to underestimate an opponent. You never want to just kind of burn through somebody, but I would say it's more or less would be a tune-up game. I think we should. They're going to come to town, handle business. I'm just looking for clean, crisp football. Hopefully, the starters are not even playing much past halftime. It's kind of how I envision that game to go. Just pound the rock. I want to see, assuming Orgy's the quarterback, see Orgy get some confidence, move the offense methodically down the field, and
Mhm.
defense shut them out or near shutout. That kind of be my hopes for that.
Sure. Yeah, I think Fresno State they can at times be a tricky team. I've always kind of heard them kind of having some solid talent. They're usually able to you kind of hear about them taking some teams, give them a tough time over in the Pac-12. It's usually a lot of the teams they end up matching up with throughout the season for some of their non-conference games. But I agree with you. I feel like that game's actually be a night game, 7:30. I feel like it's the house gonna be rocking. First game of the season, coming off, the first game of the season, first start to national championship defense. So I agree with you there. I do feel like it's going to be should be a pretty easy matchup. Probably see Orgy, probably see a little bit of Davis Warren. Hope to be able to get some guys, comfortable, get some jitters out, get in, get out, Lord willing, injury free on top of that as well, because obviously, kind of moving on to September 7th here, we don't usually see, you haven't really seen a matchup like this since we used to play Notre Dame,
Yep.
home and away. We haven't done it over the last 3 or 4 years, but it's going to be a really good game. And yeah, to kind of kick it back to you and kind of see your thoughts on Texas and how you kind of see this game going down.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big time game. This is, I mean, a couple of plays go differently. This could have been a national championship game back in the wintertime. So, you know, two powerhouse teams. Obviously, they're bringing back a quarterback that's, I mean, I would imagine behind Shador, he's probably second quarterback off the board, or somewhere around there. So Quinn Ewers is, he's pretty legit. He's the real deal. That team has some firing power. They were clicking last year. I'm sure they're a little disappointed at not making it to the championship game or winning. So that I think they would love to come and play spoils, and kind of rename themselves. But I'm still feeling pretty good about it. I think we've seen how physical we are, just top to bottom, class after class. That's what we do. We've been developed into just kind of being that fine-tuned machine that we talked about the vice grips that we put on people or being a boa constrictor or whatever. I think a
Mhm.
lot of that's going to be mimicked this year. Not a lot of that's going to fall away. I mean, Sharon Moore, our head coach, was an offensive line coach for the last 10 years before he was an OC for a couple. So, we're going to come with the toughness, physicality, and it's going to be up. I personally think it's going to be up on a couple of things. Can Orgy do it against a big time opponent when the spotlight's on? You know, possible college game day type game, big noon type game or whatever. Can he do it there in that time? And um, our defense just coming, being who we know they are. And I think that's really what this game is going to come down to: is defense holding their own, being who we know they are, and we'll see what Orgy is made of. Week 2 for real.
For sure. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put a check mark
A
there.
dub.
It'll be a win. Now, like I said before we kind of hopped on here, I feel like, last few years we've created a formula to specifically beat Ohio State. And I think what's fortunate about that is we're able to pretty much transfer that formula over to teams that kind of mirror the way they play. Great example of that would be Washington. I feel like last year, obviously, completely different year, but Washington probably had some of the most elite receivers, elite quarterback. We were still able to, bottle them up and make things very difficult, on them. Overall, the entire game. We've already discussed how this defense is gonna, could potentially be just as good as it was last year, if not better. So I feel like we're gonna use that formula to where we're gonna be running the ball, 35, 45 times a game, chewing up that clock, putting pressure on them, keeping everything in front of us from a defensive standpoint. And I do feel like we have the defensive line that'll be able to get into Quinn's face and make things pretty difficult on them from that standpoint. So looks like so far we starting off the season 2-0. So yeah, September 14th got Arkansas State. What do you think about that game, E?
I think you put another dub up. Another one of those. Just it's going to be almost a. It's kind of a weird, I don't want to say letdown, but a little, you're coming off of Texas and then you go play another
Yeah,
random. So it's going to be, just another testament to keeping the team focused. If you come off a big time win versus Texas, I don't want to see Arkansas State keeping it close just because you guys are, you were partying until Wednesday. So I think, just that kind of showed me what we're made of. We go come off a big Texas win and go there and put the boot down again. So
for
that's kind of what
sure.
I'm looking forward to.
Yeah,
Pound the Rock, another 40 time, hopefully we might this be a game where we see some people that some young freshman type guys get some snaps, things like that. That's what I'm, hopefully
yeah,
how it goes.
for sure. And I think, like no disrespect, obviously to Arkansas State, but like you said, we should be the superior team. I feel like this could be a week to where it's like, if anything, we're fine tuning, things that might have not went our way, whatever that looks like after a win against Texas, and kind of using them as another dress rehearsal before we have USC come to town. Um, first Pac-12 matchup. This is usually a matchup that you see in the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
So it's kind of crazy seeing it September 21st at the Big House. Um, yeah, so I just kind of kick it back to you. We know how Lincoln Riley operates. We know how USC what they've looked like the last couple of years. So what do you think about that game and that matchup?
Yeah. Another game that honestly I'm not overly scared about. Obviously, Lincoln Riley can cook up some offense. They're gonna have some firing power on offense, but none of those things where they don't even try to focus on defense. And I think that's where we'll be able to really capitalize, whether it's just outright pounding the rock on them
Mm-hmm.
till we beat them to a pulp, or um, little combination of that and some play action, some trickeration type deals. Just because I feel like that defense is always lackadaisical. They're gonna be coming to the big house, another fiery atmosphere, and so another thing, Lincoln Riley, he obviously can coach his ass off offensively, but it's one of those things where since the beginning of time, we could tell you who his quarterback was. And I'm not saying he doesn't have some kid that we don't know what his name is, and he can be a Baker or Kyler Murray or whoever, you name the guy. But I don't know that guy. And I just looked at it. They have a junior on their team named Miller Ross.
That's gonna be the starter. Miller Moss,
Yeah.
that's the starter.
Yep. Yeah. Miller Ross. I mean, nothing jumps off the page.
Yeah.
In cleanup duty, he's a junior. Career stats is 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. So he's just, playing in cleanup duty, or the 2 plays Caleb Williams had to take off because he, twisted his ankle. So
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not worried about that at all. And I think not to dive too much into it, but it's also how come they wouldn't have a big time quarterback ready to step up? Maybe, some players even know that the team's not built for success. So
For sure. Yeah, and I think we can easily, I agree there. That was a horrible check mark. But I agree there. We can I think that's gonna be another win. And I feel like with Lincoln Riley, all he's really kind of known for is having Baker Mayfield, who was a Heisman, having Kyler Murray, who was a Heisman, Jalen Hurts, who was a Heisman runner-up, Caleb Williams, who won the Heisman. I mean, he's just had the opportunity to, he's gotten some guys transfer. Well, obviously Caleb transferred him to UFC, but he got Baker transferred in from Texas Tech. Kyler Murray transferred in from Texas A&M. Jalen Hurts transferred in from Bama. So he's kind of gotten some guys that were already kind of proven to be
yep.
solid, and he's made them elite. I haven't seen, enough from Miller Moss or even really heard a whole lot around what's going over there, to make me, really like worried or nervous about them. Like you said, I feel like the style of football we play, it's just going to be a mismatch from their standpoint. Once again, I'll throw out there you know, the blueprint we have to beat Ohio State. That's something we can, I feel like, will apply to this game. And once again, having the best defense in the country, I do feel like we'll be able to handle them pretty well. So far, looking at 4 and
Yeah.
0, as we move on to Minnesota.
Yeah, no, Minnesota, another one. I mean, you don't want to sleep on any of these Big Ten teams. I think they are coached decently well. They are, but I don't think they're a team that's ready to compete at our level yet. I think we'll find a way to. I mean, I think he said last year that was the best team he ever played in his life.
Yeah.
So I think he was the first one to say that way before we had the 15-0 talk or championship talk. So
Sure.
I think it might be we'll have to see how they pan out, but I'm looking at the schedule here. UConn and Iowa, Nevada, Rhode Island. So they're not playing anybody heading into playing us. And we so I still, once again, another check mark. I feel pretty good about it. And it's gonna be crazy because I just realized that because we kind of freestyled on check marks, we might have to get to the business here and we have to get serious. We have to debate if we're gonna lose one of these or not. So that's
Yeah.
but
Well, I was thinking we'll do like question marks
question
when
marks.
it
Yeah,
comes to
I
some
feel
of
you
the
on that.
games. There are some games that could be a little bit of a toss up there, but I do feel like with confidence, out of this, I think the worst case scenario with this first 4 games, I think best case 5-0, worst case is 4-1. So I do feel like I'm confident in what we bring to the table against Texas, what we'll bring to the table against USC. And I think, those other 3 teams, we should be able to just handle business. So, yeah, moving on to Washington. One thing with them, they're bringing back, like, they keep saying how we're like 120th in the country and like production that we're bringing back. I think they're like last in the country in production bringing back. I heard that they have literally out of their 2 deep from last year, they have like 3 returning people. It's like we at least have like seconds, like a lot of people, second string, third string that are kind of just be moving and kind of replacing a lot of people that left. But for
Right.
them, it's going to be, I mean, they are literally down to nuts and bolts doing a full blown rebuild. You heard their coach communicate that. A couple of times that I heard him say that a couple of different times at media day. Usually you hear that about 3 to 4 times through a couple of different interviews. It's kind of like writing on the wall there. So might be tough going out there. First we're supposed to go to Washington, I think like 2020, but it got canceled. Um, I think Bill Belichick's son's like their defensive coordinator. But I think other than that, just kind of seeing maybe some, pretty unique defense. I do feel like we have the depth and we just have enough returning to where I'll go ahead and throw the check mark on there before letting you speak about them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think they're I mean, obviously we played them in a championship game and ragged out them more or less. And we obviously both lost our coaching staffs. Both lost our starting quarterbacks. But all that being said, I still feel very confident that we like you said, 1 or 2 depth, they're completely vacated from last year compared to we have, I mean, we can talk about Will Johnson, we can talk about Mason Graham, we can talk about Kenneth Grant. I mean, those are
Yeah,
all top 40, probably first round picks.
yeah.
And I dare you to throw to Will Johnson. I dare you. So, I think we have guys who would have got drafted last year if they were eligible, that kind of were forced to come back. And so I just look forward to, I mean, this is gonna be fun heading into mid-October. You have a bye week after this, it looks like. So, being 1, 2, 6-0, heading to a bye week. I feel very good about that. And we're real quick. Who they hire as their head coach? Anything about that off the top of your head?
Jed Fish. I think that was a guy we
Yeah,
talked like if Sharon Moore wasn't like sliding in there, that probably would have been, an option because he coached at Michigan a couple, for a few years, like the early to mid 2010s. But yeah, I mean they lost DeBoer. DeBoer took players from Washington to Alabama. The portal it's kind of a free for all when coaches, up and leave. So I think they're just kind of in a tough spot to where, sure they'll have them ready to put up a fight, but I just don't think they have the talent and the depth to really keep up right now, as
no,
where they sit going into this season. So Then we got at Illinois after off a bye week. That's one thing interesting about this year. Going to have a couple byes, if I'm not mistaken, just with some of the travel over to the West Coast. So Illinois, I always feel like last time you see they play tough. Got Bielema down there. I mean, he's brought that like Washington, that Wisconsin, big linemen, fat running backs, just kind of play similar, play style to what we play. So yeah, I think this is one of those games. It's like you don't really want to get caught sleeping. You got rival, coming up that very next week. So I do feel like this is a matchup that we should be able to handle handedly. It'll be interesting to kind of see how things are. Hopefully they're not sleepwalking off the bye and kind of walking into. I'm sure that it's gonna be a game that they're gonna be up for. It might be their homecoming or something crazy like that. But I do feel like this could be another win we can check off as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I do think they was it 2 years ago when we had to kick a field goal to win.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the game last year off the top of my head, but I mean they're definitely playing a physical style football. They
Yeah.
want to they want to copy our blueprint. Quite frankly, that's what they're looking to do, and so yeah, I think it won't be a tough game, but it'd be a tough nose game. I feel like we're gonna have to go out there and play, be ready to hit,
And I feel like that game was only
and
tough 2 years ago because we
a
lost
clean game.
Blake.
Right.
Like that, that kind of took the wind out of the sails. That's like senior day. He went down with the MCL. But no, I'm with you. I think they're gonna bring it. They always do. They're always tough. But I do think we'll handle that. Then we got little brother, around the corner, at home, put a 49-0 beat down on them last year. Their coach pretty much got fired the week before. Um, they're bringing in, a solid coach, Jonathan Smith from Oregon State. I think he's a solid coach, but I just feel like it's gonna be one of those things where I don't feel like they'll have the talent built up to really compete quite yet with us.
Yeah, no, I agree. They brought in some quarterback that if you have any state fans, they'll tell you know any state fans, they'll tell you all about the
Mhm.
child's transfer from Oregon State. They seem to think he's going to be like a top three quarterback in the conference. Um, I think he's a massive upgrade from anything they have on the roster. But one quarterback with just a vacated team is not a recipe for success. So I mean, think about this: they brought in all those transfers in like 2021 or 2020, whatever that was. So I mean,
Mhm.
and let's say all those guys were pretty talented. Since then, they've all graduated or went to the pros or left, and then you followed it up with some straight out of high school recording classes. Your whole team could have left because your coach got fired. I feel like they're going to be very thin. And then um, I just want to say this: the games leading up to our game on September 28th, they play Ohio State. On October 4, they play Oregon. On October 19, they play Iowa, and then they play us. That is a,
Gauntlet.
a horrible stretch. And I think they could be completely beat up and demoralized by then, with their only win probably being like Florida Atlantic and Prairie View, because
Yeah.
Maryland's going to beat them. Maryland can beat them. Boston College is a toss up, and then four straight losses versus Ohio, Oregon, Iowa, us.
Yeah. Yeah. Hit it right on the head there. I just think it's new coach, lost a lot of players. This could be pretty thin, just from a offense, defense side of the ball. So I feel like we handled them pretty well. So I think
Yeah,
this next game. This is really, I think we can kind of put a little question mark here. That's a tough little question. It's an ugly little question mark, but yeah, I mean, I think this is what we'll say at the first real test. But I think all the media, all we've heard, over the last 6, 7 months or so. I mean, they're like almost like a prettier version of Ohio, where they've been kind of deemed, the favorite, the top dog that's supposed to just kind of come in and just run shit from the first day, which I personally don't agree with. But I'm also aware. I respect their coach, kind of like how he operates. They do kind of thrive on physicality, but something I always kind of found interesting. I know it's a new season, but for some reason, Washington was just a bad matchup for them. And we were able to pretty much whoop on Washington, pretty handedly, just from based on their skill set, their style. So this game, it'll be tough. It's gonna be at home. So I do feel like it's something we can squeeze out. But I will say just realistically, this has always kind of been a game that I thought could be one of the ones that we, maybe drop just with the talent that we lost and everything last year. But yeah, not gonna necessarily say we can't pull it out, but I want to, put a question mark around it just to see, see your thoughts, and it could be a toss up for sure.
Yeah, no, so I agree with you. I think you let the media say it. They have the best roster in the Big Ten. They're going to come here, dominate 50 of game, run the course. I think it will be a learning curve for them because we, top to bottom, just play more physical football.
Mhm.
The weeks that you were playing Arizona State, who wants to pass it 60 times a game, now you got to go play Wisconsin or Illinois or somebody. So I think it's night and day different on from what they're used to in a week in and week out. So I feel pretty confident about it. But once again, we have our major question mark is what can Orji do? Can
Right.
Orji run the show for us? Get the needed third down? I mean, we do not expect him to pass for 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns. But if he can give us 2,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, a handful of picks, 500 rushing yards,
Sitting
the
pretty.
sky's the limit for the squad. Assuming Donovan Edwards is going to get busy, assuming having a running quarterback, running option, Donovan Edwards seems to be, I don't want to label him this, but kind of a scat back. So if he can, I think running that option is going to help him a lot. Just kind of get to the edge more,
Yeah.
which is what he wants to do. So I feel pretty confident in all of that leading up, and just hopping on their roster a little bit. I mean, Bo Nix is gone. Their
Receivers
running back
gone.
Bucky Irvin's gone. Troy Franklin's gone. That's a lot of production. I mean, Bo Nix had 45 touchdowns, 3 picks last year. Bucky ran for 1,200. Uh, Franklin, the receiver, had 1,414 touchdowns. So I think
Yeah,
they also have a lot of question marks. So it's really going to come down to that defense once again. Very similar to that Texas game. Very similar to the Ohio game. What we're going to talk about in a minute. Just that defense and quarterback being able to get us those needed first downs by feet, by air, by whatever you got to do.
for sure. It's gonna be to me. It's gonna be like a show me game. Y'all, the,
Mm-hmm.
the new big dogs, the crop of the cream of the crop of the Big Ten. Supposedly in your first year. I think it's gonna be a great opportunity for them to go over there and show us if they're really that real deal or not. We'll move
Yeah.
on to Indiana. I think they're kind of going through the same thing. They fired their coach. They got a coach from James Madison. I think they went almost like undefeated or something like that last year. He came in talking a lot of mess about how he wasn't scared of any of the big dogs in the Big Ten and how he's gonna, they're gonna have their impact and everything. But I just feel like, I mean, Indiana just usually does not have the talent to really be able to hang around with us, and it's been adamant the last 3 to 4 years, and I don't really see that changing.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't know how much, we don't got to dwell on that one that much. I agree with you. I just think one of those games late November is going to be, or mid November is going to be cold, nasty.
Yeah,
We'll get out of there running that ball 30 times, little 28-10, little,
for sure.
and go home. Yeah. So,
Yep. Northwestern, they doing some weird shit in the locker room, so we ain't gonna take much time with them
yeah.
either.
No car
We already
washes. No
know.
car wash. No.
Yeah, they got a lot of problems in their own right. Um, they haven't been able to compete. I think they have to hang their hat on that little Big Ten West championship they were able to snag during COVID. But when it's all said and done, they're just not. They just haven't really been able to compete. I don't think they're going to be able to compete. That's going to be a home game, senior day. I see us going out with a bang just to kind of end the season at home. And then of course we got the matchup um, with the rival, on the road. I personally feel like everybody thinks that they're going to be able to turn the tide, but it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Looking at 4 in a row in the face. I think for us, we kind of walk in where it's like, I mean, we lose. Okay, of course we were supposed to. Y'all got the best. You got the best. I see. Urban Meyer said they might have the best roster in like a decade. You're hearing all this stuff around. How great they are, all the transfers they brought in. But can Mr. Ryan Day? Can he put it together? Can he pull it off? And
Yep.
I'm not. I can't even put a question mark next to this one. I'm just go. It's gonna be for all the marbles. I think we've shown to
Yeah.
be the better team, we were able to take care of them. Granted, it was a home game last year. We didn't even have our head coach. We were still able to handle them. And I think I can put a question mark next to it. I don't like. I just
No, hey, hey, I respect it. I respect it because what I'm saying is something very similar. I'm blanking on my man's name, Will Harris, Will John, the quarterback they got from
oh, Will Howard.
Will Howard. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
show me.
yeah, you gotta show me. I ain't seen much of nothing. So you got him coming in. I mean, he's probably an upgrade from Kyle McCord probably, but he ain't,
Maybe.
is maybe, yeah. And on top of that, we he Marvin Harrison gone. That tight end got drafted too, right? Stover, or am I tripping? Am
He
I
got
either off?
drafted.
Yep. So I
Yep.
think they got some holes there. I mean, obviously they got a talented roster. We know who they are.
Right.
And it's not going to be easy. We know that, but I agree with you on that. We seem to have the kryptonite to them. You already said we already beat them last year with our coach. Watching it from the couch like we did. Sherrone Moore has that taste in his mouth a little bit as far as like, hey, I see what you get this done. That's why that matters. Not
Right.
we want the rest of these games too, but you get that done, it matters a little more.
For
So
sure.
I think he knows that. The team knows that. Now I've heard there's nobody on Ohio's roster that's beat Michigan.
Yeah.
So they don't even know the experience. So we're going back, obviously throwing the COVID year, but I mean we're going back to 2019 or something. I mean I'm sure we're going to begin to see that 2,200 days since Ohio State. So I think let's keep that going another 365, and I agree by any means necessary. I don't care if it's a 7-6 game. Let's get it.
Right. Because this, and yeah, I do see us being right back where we belong. That's our second home last few years. And I do feel like we're going to end up right back there. See, I'll stop sharing here. Yeah, we got a couple minutes left here. Not to like dwell on it from a negative standpoint, but just want to kind of see your thoughts. Like, what do you think the floor could look like? We don't have to really go through like who we'd lose to, but I think my opinion, 9-3, I think that'll still get us to the playoff. That might get it to where we might not, unfortunately, go to the Big Ten championship game. Like you said, you never know. If we beat, if Oregon beats Ohio and we beat Oregon, we end up beating Ohio. It might be a matchup of us against Oregon, in the Big Ten title game. There's a lot of scenarios that can kind of, come to be just with the expansion. But yeah, what do you think the floor will look like from a record standpoint?
Yeah, so I don't want to cop out and say it matters so much on the quarterback, so much on Orgy. But it just does. So I think that's my biggest, you asked me this
Big
week
question mark.
3 after I seen him sling it for 250 and a couple of tugs. I mean, okay, I feel great about it. But I do want to see it. You know, so I think that's my biggest question mark. But other than the cop out, I would say I agree with you. It's 9-3, 8-4. If all the wheels fell off, could be in play. If we just don't got a quarterback and
Yeah.
I'm just saying all the negative shit. Edwards is just missing the hole like crazy every
We
time.
just read a bug
You
that we
know,
don't even need to discuss. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, yep.
bugs.
So
Yeah.
those type of things I could see happening, but I think just the nucleus of the squad, we're beating all the crap Big Ten teams. It's coming down to the couple of question marks we had, and maybe somebody else has the best game of the season versus us, and we got our backs are on the rope or something. But I agree with you. That 9-3 is where I think um, we're in play for stuff still. If that's 9-3, but we got Ohio and we got let's say Texas, but we lost to Oregon and Washington, you could play some crazy scenarios where we're right back in it just due to kind of round robin who lost to who, and we
Right.
cream rises to the top. So I think that's kind of what I agree with you. And then the ceiling is
11-1. Yeah.
11-1, 12-0.
11-0.
If we got one at quarterback, 12-0, 9-3 if he's average. And
Sure.
yeah, no, I agree with you, man. We got the blueprint here. They built the
Yeah.
squad well, and I'm ready to see Sherrone Moore take the ring, and hopefully he is what he is, and we can ride this out for 15 years with him, 20 years with him, like
For sure. No, I'm right there with you. I think it's we're gonna sneak up with some people. We're kind of getting
mm,
written off. You know, they even got Penn State over us as the favorite, but I do, you know, as one of the favorites to win the Big Ten. But I do feel like we have